Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Dubai Real Estate Podcast, one of the best podcasts in Dubai for real estate. We do not talk any crap, it's all real value, unscripted. My goal from day one has been to give value to people watching this or listening this. Now today we are on episode 50. Thanks to you guys because you've been sharing this and the kind of response we've been getting. I wanted to say a big thank you. This is episode 50 of the Dubai Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Tahir here. My today's topic is something which is related to real estate, but in a different manner. What is it? It's about home insurance. A lot of people ask me about home insurance in the UAE and Dubai, and this is something which is not really very common in the Asian markets and in the Middle East, but it's a very common thing to have home insurance in the West, in say US, UK, in the Western countries. So I thought, why not get someone from the insurance field? And I had the pleasure of getting Mr. Avinash Babur, the CEO of insurancemarket.ae. They are one of the largest insurance brokers in the UAE, and I am really excited for this. But before I start the show, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell to stay updated. Your likes, comments are really appreciated. If you're listening to this on Spotify, please do subscribe. Apple listeners, please do give us a 5-star rating and review. This really helps us getting discovered. And now let's cue the music. Hi Avinash, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us on the show. Why don't you just start with a quick introduction about yourself?
Sure. Avinash Babur, founder, CEO of insurancemarket.ae.
Yes.
Father of 2, husband of 1.
That's great. Avinash, now, first thing first, right? Insurancemarket.ae, right, is probably anybody who is living in Dubai, and the moment they think about insurance, it's your brand which pops up first. And the way you've done your marketing around insurance market, I feel somewhere that's very. How was that? How did that happen? Because it's a genius play. Because okay, when I'm searching, obviously I'll when I'm listening on radio or I'm passing by Sheikh Zayed Road, I see Mr. Alfred from Insurance Market. Now, okay, I pay for insurance. I have to buy insurance. That's fine. But the thing is, my kids also know about this. So how did this thing happen?
I'm glad you feel that way. Mission accomplished.
No, because it's literally, because just opposite my, every time when I drop my daughter to school, and right opposite on the other side of Sheikh Zayed, there's one, on one of the, I think, metro pillars somewhere, there's this, and, and they notice, even when the character has changed clothes.
That's awesome.
That was for me, this is it's going to the kids, because that's something very, difficult.
Yeah. No, when you do something creative, you just have your own vision for something and you put it out there. And then there are unintended, brilliant consequences like this. So kids do love Alfred a lot.
Yeah.
We want to do more with that, actually. So we're brainstorming as it stands currently. But look, for me, it was, the rare case of I had to do sales to be able to do marketing.
Right.
So marketing was the reward. Usually you do a bit of marketing and you expect sales. We are not VC funded, or we had no pool of capital to work with when we began. So, I was hustling. I was like you, a broker, or I am still, but just an insurance broker, just hustling, trying to win clients. But then every bit of revenue that we earned, we reinvested in advertising. For me, advertising was a reward, because there was something in my brain that gave me a dopamine hit every time I heard my ad on the radio or saw it out there. So just ran with it, ran with the addiction, still addicted, and it seems to have worked, because we could afford to buy more and more over time. That means the sales were going up more and more over time as well. And it's as simple as that.
But as a campaign and, putting a character to it, right? This Mr. Alfred from insurancemarket.ae, this is something which, if people have listened to the ad or seen, it gets stuck in your head. Was this really targeted? What was the thought behind doing that?
Well, yeah, insurance companies are boring and cold and dry. Most of the advertising is cold and dry.
Yes.
Always with any type of marketing, you want to stand out from the crowd.
True.
And that's what we try to do. So, have a relatable face, name, something catchy, a voice that is, different from everyone else. And then there's a certain type of trust also that you have to build as an insurance provider, as an insurance platform.
Yeah.
Because we're selling nothing other than a piece of paper. And nowadays, it's not even a piece of paper, right? Because you get everything online.
Yes.
So how do you build trust? How do you create a trusted voice? And that actually for me comes through consistency.
Right.
Just always staying put, being there. We're always there for you.
Right.
So that it's not only in terms of saying that in words, but even in our actions, even in our marketing, we're always there.
Right. Okay. Now, tell me, when it comes to insurance, what types of insurances are available in UAE?
It's the whole breadth of products are available, right from the simplest, obviously, the car, health, home, life, travels, business. And within business, there's a whole host of risks that one needs to think about, and an evolving climate of risks as well, right? From cyber risk to climate risk, right? There's everything that can be procured here in the UAE.
Okay.
Some through the local market, some through international markets, and then kind of fronted in the local markets.
Got it.
But there's something for every requirement here.
And does your company take care of everything?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Got it. Now, when it comes to insurance, right? When you talk about insurance, and I'm talking about being a layman about this thing, right? When you talk about insurance, mostly you associate insurance with, say, your car insurance or, your medical insurance or life insurance, right? Now, if someone is from the West, from Europe, America and all, home insurance is very common over there. But in a lot of regions, home insurance is not really common. What are you seeing now? Are people really taking home insurance, and what is a benefit of having a home insurance?
Yeah, I think you're right in pointing that out. If I look at our home insurance portfolio, it would be more Western expat oriented.
Right.
Maybe it's a cultural thing, it's an awareness thing, but it's an incredibly important product, as we saw during the floods in April earlier this year. So it's something that is worth having, especially given how cheap it is. I think, again, to your point, Western expats, when they get a quote for home insurance, they're just surprised at how cheap it is. Then they ask, is this annually or monthly or what?
Right.
Because compared to what they pay back home, it's a tenth.
Okay.
And that's because the risk landscape is more conducive, to having a home.
Yes.
Whether it's in terms of theft or even climate.
Right.
But that doesn't mean risks don't exist. And so it is definitely worth insuring one's
But
home.
what does a home insurance actually cover?
Yeah. So you're covering, firstly, everybody's interest in the property can vary. You can be a landlord, you can be a tenant.
Right.
Or both.
Right.
So if you're the landlord, you insure the building itself. Whether it's an apartment or a villa, you own the building, right?
Yeah.
So you insure the rebuilding cost or the repair cost or the reinstatement cost of that building and its, permanent fixtures and fittings. Then you could be a tenant. You could be just a tenant, or you could be living in the house that you own.
Yeah.
Then you want to insure also your contents, your personal belongings. And if you're a high net worth individual, you might have a collection of art, collection of watches, jewelry, whatever it may be. You may even have a collection of cars in your home which are just there and never being driven. So you don't need to pay a full motor insurance rate for that. You can pay a collection motor insurance rate for that, which is maybe a fifth of a normal motor insurance, right? And you can still drive your car. So these are the various elements. The risks you're insuring against are, fire, natural perils, so floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, you name it. Your accidental damage, so you're looking at, there's a pipe burst, or your kids break something of value. This is accidental damage. That's another component of it. You're covering liability to third parties, especially as a landlord or even as a tenant.
Yeah.
If a fire starts in your property due to your negligence, you could even cause damage to third parties, and they could sue you for that damage. you're covering that as well.
Okay.
Then if, God forbid, there is an event like a fire and you can't live in that property anymore, as we have seen with some of these towers, right?
Yes.
And they've been closed for
quite
years sometimes,
yes.
right? You're covering also the cost of alternative accommodation,
Okay.
right? So it's all of these elements as well as theft. So
Got
people
it.
don't think about theft in the UAE. And thankfully, touch
Yes.
wood, one of the safest places.
True.
But that's why the home insurance is so cheap. And that doesn't mean that theft doesn't happen at all.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Right? And so you might as well protect against it. So it's a whole host of risks. Pretty much every risk you can think of it gets covered. And also, I should add, as a landlord, you're also covered for loss of rent.
Right.
In the event of, again, like you have cost of alternative accommodation. As a landlord, your building is shut down, it's not livable until it's repaired. You might lose months of rent. That can be covered as well.
Okay. That's great. Are you seeing more people now opting for home insurance, or is that not still, the awareness is still not there?
To be completely honest, whilst the growth is exponential, I would say the majority of people are uninsured. Do you have home insurance?
No.
Yeah. No. And you're in the housing business per se.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, because I've never thought of it, and one of the reasons, when I thought of getting you on the show, I was like, because I want to understand, right, what exactly a home insurance is. Because usually, I mean, for example, in India, we've not, nobody really does that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's only when you are, say, developing and there's a site going on, that is the time they take insurance for, something happening. But otherwise, home insurance is something which is not.
Yeah.
And, and the reason is because I was also like, I need to know more about, because a lot of people, when clients from the Western countries, when they talk about it, they say, okay, what are the insurance costs? And I'm like, I don't have an answer. Because genuinely, majority of the people over here,
I can make it easy for you, so you'll have an answer. So if you're looking at the building itself, take 0.5%. Okay. If you're looking at then the personal belongings, that's 1%.
Got it.
Contents, somewhere in between, 0.75%.
Got it.
Right? And that's your annual premium. So if someone has a 5 million dirham villa, right? 0.5% is 2,500 dirhams. Wow. Right? For the property itself. Actually, sorry, it's half per meal, so it's around 2,500 dirhams for the so it's 0.05%.
Okay.
2,500 for the building, and then you have, let's say, 100,000 worth of contents. It's another 1,000 dirhams for contents and personal belongings.
Got it.
So for 3,500 dirhams, you're now protecting your home against all of these risks that we spoke about.
Right.
It's a no-brainer, really, right?
True.
And this, by the way, in the UK, for example, would probably cost you £5,000.
Wow. Right.
So that's the difference.
Got it. Now tell me something. When someone's buying insurance, what are the do's and don'ts? Like, if someone's buying a property, I can tell, okay, look at this. But how does someone evaluate an insurance policy?
I think, the proof is in the pudding. So looking at reviews makes a big difference.
Okay.
We obviously keep boasting about our reviews. We have over 23,000 with a 4.8 star rating. And when you read these reviews, you'll see that we are actually very conscious of making sure we deliver at the time of a claim. So we'll only sell those insurance products, those insurance companies that we believe will deliver at the time of a claim. Right. And for example, the April floods were a massive test of this. And I'm so glad that we could indeed deliver. So you want to look for insurance companies that will deliver at the time of a claim. And so you want to buy from, platforms that are not all about selling the cheapest per se, but it's more about having that track record and the social proof and the reviews where you know for a fact that these guys are serious about delivering at the time of a claim. Otherwise, it's a waste of money, right? It's a completely it's not only the premium down the drain, but potentially so much that you put at risk. So now once you've done that part, I think that's half the battle won. Then you want to make sure that you have the right amount of cover for the risk that you have. So you need a good advisor who can guide you, or if you want to help yourself, you can do that also for a lot of products online. But you really need to understand what you're buying.
Got it. Now tell us more about your company, right? When did you start? How did you start?
So in 2010 December, so it's exactly 14 years ago, I had spent a couple of months in my dad's traditional insurance brokerage firm, And actually in October we did a little test by running some Facebook ads, and we saw like there could be traction here. We launched another brand, which I'm not proud of in terms of its name. I spoke about it in detail in the TED talk that I did. I can go into it if you want. But then we repositioned that and renamed that to insurancemarket.ae in December of 2010. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Great. So now, how many people does insurancemarket.ae employ?
About 450.
Wow. If someone was to come and start business in Dubai today, right? Because there are a lot of people moving over here and, coming here. What advice do you give to people who are establishing themselves new to the region and setting up businesses?
Okay, yeah. Firstly, before jumping into advice, I would say great choice. Dubai is one of the best places in the world, if not the best place in the world, to start a business, to build a business. The environment is extremely conducive, not only in terms of regulatory, where it strikes the right balance between consumer protection, as well as, being a free market and encouraging of a free market, but also in terms of the vibes. Yes. Right, you have so many people that are entrepreneurial here, so many people in the same boat. In fact, just yesterday we did a seminar at the office for founders because they wanted to hear about my story, similar to your question. And we just had like 60 founders turn up to our office, and just sit down and hear. And then they started pitching as well. And the kind of things that people are building is just phenomenal.
True.
So firstly, great choice. If you've chosen Dubai, that's half the battle won again.
True.
Now, in terms of advice, I think every business is different. Not every business needs to raise funding.
True.
For instance, in our case, we didn't. We used our revenues to build the business. So it depends on what kind of business you're building. Thankfully now, even if you're building something that has a lot of capex involved, like a tech business or a F&B or something like that, there is a lot of capital out there as well. So, but I would say capital efficiency is absolutely mission critical when starting a business, because then you're generating an ROI. Even if somewhere down the road you want to raise capital, it becomes easier. But just you're putting less at risk in that way. So I would say keeping a close eye on your expenses, being very efficient in the way you build your business and market yourself, and not getting ahead of yourself, and then letting the magic of compounding kick in. So, for us, although we are who we are today, as by far the largest platform, we had a metro station named after us. The reality of the picture is that we've grown about 25 to 30% every year for the past 14 years. We've just done that consistently. And by the way, that is the kind of CAGR, the compounded average annual growth rate for even companies like Amazon.
True.
So if you can leverage the magic of compounding, as Uncle Warren says, I think you're set.
True. That's great. Tell me, if you were to go back and see your journey, of last 14 years, and if you had to change one thing going back in the past, what would you do?
Yeah, so no regrets, but lots of things I would change and do differently. I would think the big one would be to start investing in tech sooner.
Right.
There was a kind of weird blitzscaling approach to like making things work by throwing people at problems. And then we got to a point where it became quite messy and disorganized. We had ended up with 650 people. The tech that we did use was off the shelf, trying to stitch different SaaS platforms together. That didn't really pan out too well for us in the end. If I would have gone on the journey of hiring a good CTO, maybe 3 or 4 years earlier than I did, it would have been a lot more. I would have been a bit more ahead. That said, we cracked the marketing part. A lot of people had actually cracked the tech part before us and burned through millions of dollars in doing it. But because we cracked the customer experience part, the marketing aspect of it, I think that made it very forgiving for as far as being weaker on tech is concerned. But then it just meant that the last 3 to 4 years I've put my head down and all I've been doing is working on our tech, and today we are absolutely cutting edge and we're working on some phenomenal things going forward as well.
That's great. Any plans of expansion outside of the UAE?
Yes, indeed. Now that the tech is built, so it's a good segue. Now that the tech is built and, speaking to people outside the UAE, because everyone spends so much time in the UAE and drives down Sheikh Zayed Road inevitably, we are actually quite well recognized. We have brand equity even beyond the UAE.
Right.
So we're certainly interested. The immediate priority would be the GCC countries, neighboring GCC countries.
Okay, that's great. And now tell me something. Now you've been you're born and brought up here, right? And you've seen Dubai grow from from desert to what it is today, right? Where do you see, in your personal opinion, is Dubai in terms of growth? Because a lot of people have this opinion that now Dubai is, markets have gone up too high, and we don't know what's happening. And where do you see personally Dubai in the growth map?
Yeah,
As a business owner and a resident.
Yeah, I have been the biggest believer of Dubai, from the beginning. I don't know why, but there is a certain magic that I've experienced here from the beginning. So even as soon as I could graduate, I came as a 21-year-old to Dubai and started insurancemarket.ae. And it was pretty much it was a bad time, let's say, to start a business, right? 2010, post the global financial crisis, things weren't so great here as well. But that's typically, it's a good time to start business in bad times. I think Dubai is now on a super cycle, frankly speaking. And Bitcoin and Dubai are very similar, let's say. They're both, they both need believers. They're both cyclical, they're both volatile,
right.
But the volatility is actually vitality. It just shows that this thing is alive, right?
Yeah.
So that's not to say that you won't have corrections, there won't be challenges, but that's the feature of an powerful emerging market,
right.
as opposed to a bug. So I think as it stands, there's nothing stopping Dubai. The kind of consistency of leadership, the kind of vision that we have here, the kind of investment in forward-thinking initiatives,
Absolutely.
it cannot be compared to anywhere else. And then of course there's the other stuff of being very entrepreneur-friendly, the tax environment, the safety, all of these things. So I think it's pretty much uncomparable. And then on top of that, where is the rest of the world going, right? So when you bring all of these elements together, even being pegged to the dollar is a great thing, right? So there's so many things that work to your favor here. And all said and done, Dubai, the global brand story, our population is still tiny in the grand scheme of things. So, you don't need that many more millionaires or billionaires to move here to keep this thing going long term. So I just can't think of a long-term bear case for Dubai.
Got it. Now, as a business owner, what do you see the implications of tax coming in, corporate tax?
Look, I think corporate tax is a good thing. It's still a significantly smaller percentage than anywhere else.
Absolutely.
So it still keeps Dubai competitive.
Yeah.
It also makes sure that everyone's got their books in order, right? It's a forcing function to having a high quality business.
Yes.
And so if all of the businesses are well managed in terms of their books, it's a sign of a high quality economy, right? It makes it harder to do illicit activities, right? It will bring that to the forefront more quickly. So I think, in that sense, it structures the economy and builds a strong foundation for future growth. And then, as we know in Dubai, they're not just taxing everybody to sit on a bunch of cash.
True.
They're reinvesting.
Deploy the money, definitely.
And that's going to come back to the business, right? So, we've already seen the kind of developments, as far as road infrastructure is concerned, and everything.
Everything, roads, metros, everything, airport.
Everything. So, it's all going to come back and help businesses, right? So it's a beautiful virtuous cycle,
right?
So and I think these guys are pros at striking the right balance.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, I think there's no other place where the government is kind of monitoring everything on such levels where data is being analyzed and steps are being taken accordingly, because like it's weird, sometimes you see and you feel, okay, this road, there's so much traffic, and then a few months down the line you see the government's announcing that they're doing something on it.
Absolutely.
So that's something I think Dubai is doing really well. Now, talking about real estate, what's your opinion on the markets? Where do you see the markets going, and what are your thoughts?
Look, I think even though it seems like there's so many launches,
Yeah.
and there's so many real estate agents. So it seems like, a frenzy or bubble like.
Yeah.
But again, you got to look at the numbers, you got to look at the data, and there's a massive undersupply.
Right.
We will need more housing.
Yes.
And at all levels, from affordable to ultra luxury.
True.
I think we will need more housing here. And the kind of housing we're doing itself is a competitive edge, right? You're building waterfront properties in the middle of the desert inland. So I think the kind of products that are coming out are so compelling compared to anywhere else. And then on top of that, you have, certainly a supply crunch, which I think if, again, assuming that super cycle continues, more and more people want to move here. I don't see a reason for the real estate market to crash or have a fundamental problem with it.
Right.
And then you have the comparison to other
global
markets,
cities.
right?
If you compare it, it's still cheap.
To any city, right?
Yeah.
The city we're from, Bombay.
Yes.
Or Singapore or London, or you name it, right?
Yes,
It doesn't matter. It's still I think a fourth compared to the average of other major cities.
True.
So, you've got that, massive gap.
Yeah.
So, and still, I would say, even if the prices were in some cases the same as London, let's say, you could make a very strong case for Dubai still being a better place to live.
True.
So I just don't see a fundamental challenge. There will certainly always be corrections, and then 50% of the real estate agents will disappear.
True.
That flush is actually a good thing.
It's a good thing, because then it gets the people who are not really serious out of the market, and I think somewhere that should happen.
Yeah.
So
that's I think a welcome, but I don't think there's a fundamental long-term challenge ahead.
True. Absolutely. Now, personally, where do you stay in Dubai?
I stay in Damac Hills.
Oh, and how do you like it there?
I think it's a great community. It's fantastic.
Right.
The park I'm addicted to.
Right.
And I spend a lot of time there, even with my kids when the weather is good. We spend a lot of time there. The view of the Gulf that we have is absolutely phenomenal. It's like being in heaven.
Right. That's great. And talking about kids, how do you feel? Because when you see other places around the world, I think Dubai is a very kid-friendly city as compared to a lot of other places. From your kids' perspective, how do they like it living over here?
I think they have no other context, which is a challenge, right? Because the kind of luxuries they're used to, they've lived in this beautiful bubble for a long time.
Yeah.
So the challenge here is to to the contrary, how do you roughen them up so that when they go to university, they don't get a shock? And, if they go to university, who knows? They're pretty young. So I don't know if 18 years from now, people will be going to university or not.
That's true.
But, I think it's a luxurious life. The education system is good. I think schools are great. So there's nothing it's hard to criticize anything in a constructive way.
Now, one thing which was very interesting, which you said that you wished you had invested in tech earlier than later, right? Going forward with AI coming in and AI being one of the most talked about things these days, what do you think will AI really say? There are other insurance brokers also in the market, right? Apart your company and in general, do you think AI will replace insurance brokers somewhere in the future?
Yeah. Before that, I hope because I've been looking at these reels with cold calls of real estate agents being done by AI, and that scared the hell out of me because I already am flooded with human calls, and then these calls come with numbers and you pick up and someone's just talking. No, so I stopped picking up calls and I just say, sorry, I can't pick up your call, send me a WhatsApp. That's my automated response to every phone call now. And sometimes it's like a very important call, but I reject all calls. But now with this cold calling AI, I'm a bit worried about the exponential growth of cold calls. Look, I think AI is absolutely a game changer, and you don't want to be left behind. But like any tech, it's a tool. So how can you deploy it to help your internal customers, your external customers, your stakeholders, your partners? If you can deploy it effectively, then you're onto something huge. But that's easier said than done.
Yes.
Right? Even though we can demo some great stuff today, can you deploy it at scale in a meaningful way, in a value accretive way? I've been working on it for a while. So hopefully we'll crack something soon. But it's easier said than done.
True. Okay, I think Avinash, that was a great chat. I got to learn a lot about home insurance, especially.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best for your future. And whoever's listening to this, watching this, guys, if you need insurance in UAE, insurancemarket.ae. It's not. I personally have used their website as well, and I must say the process and everything is really fantastic. So yeah, thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
us on the
Tahir.
show.
Thank you for having me
Thanks.
on. Very
It's my
kind of
pleasure.
you. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, that was Avinash Babur from insurancemarket.ae. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and at the same time found value in it, because all the content which I create and which I've been doing since the past 4 years is with the aim, with the goal of giving value to the people who listen to it, watch it on different platforms. So I hope you liked it, and we'll be back with some very interesting episodes of the Dubai Real Estate Podcast very soon. Also, guys, if you have any recommendations, any feedback, I would really love to see that. You can contact me on any of my social media channels at Tahir Majidhia, and see you soon.